I've often talked at this Hall of Fame about threads that connect generations, groups, and athletes to one another. And in this particular Hall of Fame induction, there are two inductees who used to beat the hell out of me all the time at the East Junior Playground, which is the thread that I recall with them. One was our founder, Bob Caprillion, who was a young boy, used to make me call him boss. And talk about a DI, John, if I didn't call him boss, he slapped me side of the head. I've always remembered that, and every now and then, once in a while now, I just smile at him, call him boss. And the other was a fellow that I shagged a whole bunch of flies for, and just hot summer days, just out in that outfield, just chasing line drive after line drive. And at the end, he'd give me about 10 cents to go up to George's Delicatessen on Robert Street to buy a Tower root beer. It's amazing the things that stick in your mind and you remember as a kid. But boy, was he a great athlete, and was he an idol of mine. Edward Ted Kelley, class of 1955. Ted grew up in a period where everybody played at the park. And I think that when I started playing Little League, and Little League began in Watertown in the 50s, that was sort of the end of that era, because we all played at the East Junior Park, and Ted lived on Upland Road, and he played at the East Junior Park, and Al played at the East Junior Park, and Sully played there, and we all played at the East Junior Park, and we'd go up in the morning, and as I said last year, we learned some good things and about baseball, and we learned some bad things about how to play cards and all that sort of stuff. But you played at the park, and you went there from 1 hour of the day to the next, and that was Ted Kelley's home. That's where he learned the game, and everything that he played, every sport that he played at Victory at the East Junior Park. Ted was a great center on the Watertown High School football squads of the early 50s under Coach Vic Palladino, and he helped anchor the 52 and 53 Class B state championships teams, and played on an outstanding 1954 team. He had teammates such as Walter McCurdick, who was his co-captain in 54, Bob Caprillion, and Lenny Hill. He was an all-suburban selection, an honorable mention, all-state, all-scholastic. But he's only a ninth grader. He played on the baseball team, on the state hockey team, rather. He led it for 4 years. He played both forward and defense. And his senior year, he was a Bay State League All-Star, and he played an All-Star game against a team from Montreal. Spring meant baseball, and for me in baseball, he played my position too. He was a catcher, and I watched him play at Watertown High and for the American Legion team, and he played for Yanko. Ted started the outfield, and then he found his niche as a catcher, and that's where he played from then on. It was an impressive niche there too. He was a co-captain, and he was all-scholastic, and he was all-league. One all-star outing, he caught Bill Monbouquette, and he was the Hearst All-Star catcher for 2 years. And to make the Hearst All-Star team at that time was really special. And Joe Bellino was his backup. Graduating from Watertown High in 1955, he went on to Bridgeton Academy, and Ted played 3 sports there. Captained all 3, baseball, hockey, and football. The next stop was UMass Amherst. At UMass, he also played baseball, and he played hockey, and he captained the baseball squad in his senior year. He led the Yankee Conference with a .340 batting average, and he was named All-Conference that year. He also captained the hockey team and was the most valuable player, and he was named an ECAC All-Star. Whenever I've thought of Ted Kelley, I've thought that this induction might have come 5 years later than it should have. He had a tremendous career as a teacher and a coach. He taught in Maine and Massachusetts and Michigan and Texas. He was a marvelous prep school coach at Tabor Academy and was coach of the Boston Globe in 1988 and 1991 while he was winning championships at Tabor. 1980 through 1986, his teams at Cranbrook School in Michigan were state high school champions. There, Ted was basically the coach for a decade, named Coach of the Year by the Detroit News from 1977 to 1986. Now presently coaches at the Pomfret School. This man had a record that's unequaled, I believe, in the Hall of Fame. Between Watertown High School and Bridgeton and UMass, he played on 8 varsity teams, and he captained every one of them. Ted Kelley, class of 1955.
possess, babam, rumgava, tushnugs. I don't know exactly what it was. She said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm not going to tell you." First, she named some town in California. The second thing she named was Watertown. I have always prized the diversity of this community, particularly as I got older. With the name Kelley, I once played briefly on the Cilician Club. I played on the Italian-American team, and I actually played a basketball game for George Georgopoulos on the Greek Hellenic junior high team somewhere. It is a marvelously diverse community. I am a Watertown guy. I am an East Watertown guy. My grandfather was a Watertown guy. My mother grew up in Watertown, lived on Upland Road for 83 years. I am a Cousino. My uncle Ed Cousino is in the Hall of Fame. My cousin Frank Cousino is in the Hall of Fame. I married a Watertown girl, Patricia Bork, who graduated from Watertown High School in 1955, and I didn't know her. She has reminded me many times, beside athletics, that Watertown High was one of the few cum laude high schools in New England. Life couldn't be better than growing up in Watertown, and I lived by sections. Going to the Coolidge School, walking by the Victoria Spa, Bob Caprillion is right, it was a full-time education. Lloyd's Drugstore, where I met a lifelong friend, Louis Diorio, who put me on to Jimmy Lopez as a great athlete, and I watched him in high school. And down at the Coolidge School, where I had to deal with John Giglio, Freddie Alberico, Chuck Papalia, and measure Babe Samorian's home runs on the Coolidge School playground. I seemed to progress from there to Arlington. I grew a little more. I could go to the Big Bear, which was the Star Market. I finally could go down to Fresh Pond and skate and over to the Boston Ice Skating Club. It couldn't get better. However, I went to the East Junior High, and I loved the East Junior High playground. And I loved Carl Clem and my history teacher, Miss Connor, who had a great influence in my life. I spent hours at that playground playing cards, doing GIMP, torturing nerds, Bobby Norton. And I had a great collection of friends who we played ball all day long. It couldn't have been a happier time. Jack Sarmanian, Richie McGinnis, Walter McCurdick, George O'Nanian, Buzzy Bazarian, Raksha Shudian, George Abasian, Charlie Ohanian, Marty Kleins, Coco Gagordian, Pete McGrath, and so on. It was terrific. It couldn't get any better. However, on to Victory Field. It got better. The Youngs, the Greens, the Felicias, Bobby Lanigan, Dickie Berardino, and that group of people in wonderful hours at Victory Field. When I got to the high school, I was influenced heavily by two history teachers, whom some of you may remember, Duke Donnellan and Dr. Kelman. And I had some wonderful coaches, Chicky McGann, Vic Palladino, Jim Sheehan, Johnny Mantenuto. And I still had to deal with what I used to call the Prentice Street mob, Alberico, Papalia, Killer Giglio, I don't dare call him that anymore, etc. However, two men who had a significant influence on me at that time were what we would call today positively tough. And one was Joe Zeno, whom I've tried to model my coaching after, and the other was George Yankowski, who was my baseball coach. I appreciate so many things about the community. It is a unique community. And I'm happy to be back tonight. I think as I get older, I'm happier to come back more and more. And there is a Watertown nation, and I'm pleased to be part of it. And